he never, well, I've got to go to a meeting, and then, he was just there at the store. So,
Okay, okay. And you mentioned, Charlie, that your dad was in the service,
Yeah.
and your Uncle Tony was in the service.
Yes, yes.
And your Uncle Ralph was in the service.
Yes, yes.
Now, during that period, up until '53, when they were Brown versus the Board of Education,
Sure.
integrated the schools in
Sure.
Colton, prior to that, South Colton was a segregated community.
Right.
And then they, in '53, they combined Wilson Junior High School with Roosevelt Junior High School, and it became Colton Junior High School. They integrated the communities, and that's when the community started getting together. When your dad and your uncles came back from fighting World War II, did they get involved in activities like voting, running for office, buying property in North Colton, where we were prohibited from buying
Right.
property in Colton, North Colton? I remember your Uncle Ralph wanted to buy a house in North Colton.
Yes.
And he was refused. He was denied
Right.
from buying that house. So what impact did the war have on South Colton?
Just kind of moving back to my dad, and then I'll talk about my Uncle Ralph. My father ran for office in 1950, and progressive leadership, native son of Colton, for community progress, and you've seen this, can show it later. So he was involved to be a city councilman, and I remember as a kid. Well, I don't know this, I'm about 6 years old, but stories that I've heard from people that are now adults or my age, and they remember this, and they've been told that South Colton, our own folks didn't even support my father.
Mm-hmm.
You're being too much of a gringo,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately he didn't come close to winning anything. But there was that, which has changed. But there was that feeling among our folks back in the 40s or 50s that you had a certain boundary, I guess, and you couldn't be you couldn't run for political office because you weren't going to get supported even by your own group,
Mhm.
regardless of your progressive ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So and of course I didn't know any of this, but in later life I was told that. I never solicit information, but people just kind of tell me how things work. Back then. At the same time, my Uncle Ralph was trying to buy a house, and I think his kids still own it. And I don't know all the details other than it took a lot. He just wasn't wanted in the community. And
the house was located
it was in North
across
Colton.
the street of the junior high school.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly,
okay,
exactly.
okay.
And they just didn't want him in the neighborhood. And again, I'm just a child. I don't know all the back and forth that kind of went on, other than it was not, he was not wanted. His group, his racial group was not wanted in the north side.
Mm-hmm.
And I never felt the sting of that when I was growing up. If it was there, maybe it went over my head.
Well, but for him, it must have been a very trying, stressful type of experience.
It was more so because he was wounded. He was a Purple Heart veteran,
Mm-hmm.
and it was I'd have to say it's one of the things that ruined his life.
Mm-hmm.
Being shot during World War II, and he was able to work, and later went on disability.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such an injury that he always had to be careful, needed medical care. So to have been in World War II, infantry Purple Heart recipient, and then to have this happen, that he couldn't live on the north side, it had to be a double whammy,
Mhm,
I think.
mhm, mhm.
And I can only imagine how it was.
Mhm.
And
But your uncle Ralph was the fighter.
oh my God, yeah,
He was a fighter.
yeah.
He never gave up the battle.
Yeah, no. I've had a lot of people in my life that supported me to go to be a college graduate. My parents, I've got uncles on my mother's side, but it was my uncle Ralph who was always there. He was.
Yes, he was. Yes.
All right, I'll go to college. And but he was always there. He was there.
How long did the battle last? Because he finally bought the house.
Yes, he finally bought the house. I don't know what the timeline was, but it wasn't a short situation.
Uh-huh.
I think it was long.
Where was the house located?
I'm
You said
trying.
across from the junior high.
Cindy, do you remember the
On
address?
Laurel or
The street?
On
Valencia?
South.
Valencia or Oak?
No.
Over by, is it Grand Terrace or Terrace Road or something like that?
Terrace Avenue.
Yeah, Terrace Avenue. On Terrace
Okay,
Avenue.
so it's
Is
just
it?
south.
Yeah.
It's south of Oak, which is the southern boundary of the school.
What is it?
Bonita.
Yeah, I think it's Bonita.
Bonita.
Is there a Bonita there? Yeah.
Bonita.
Bonita.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was a corner house, wasn't it, Cynthia? It was a corner house.
It was a corner house, and it was a second house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But your uncle was tenacious.
Oh my God. Yes. I he was.
I remember him going through that ordeal, and he said, "I'm not giving up the fight."
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I won the privilege by going to service and serving my country.
Yes.
And there's no reason for people to treat me like this.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
second-class citizen.
Yeah. Yeah, I have his card from his obituary, and a man of great character whose judgment, humor, and friendly spirit brought out the finest in those around him. And he had a sense of humor that were out of this world.
Yeah.
And I picked up some of his characteristics, I think, in my life of well, I won't say quick wit, but of his wit, and he made me, even though, his life was very challenging at times.
And he was smart and he was articulate.
Oh my God, yes, yeah. He could lead you into a swamp and say, "We'll be safe." I mean, no.
But he was one of the first pioneers that led the charge.
Yeah.
He was the first one that led the charge to buy property in
Yeah.
North Colton.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
I'm sure he kind of set the groundwork.
Mhm.
As far as what the law was, and being it isn't kind of yo it to me, but I've sacrificed a lot
Uh-huh.
for this country.
Yes.
And all I want is a house.
Right.
Over here.
Right.
So nothing more.
A house of my choosing,
Yes.
where I
yes.
can bring my wife and my family.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just simple request.
Yeah. And getting back to Colton being a safe community, we were very lucky in Colton, in particular South Colton, because the Portland Cement gave our grandfathers and our fathers jobs.
Yeah.
So for the cement plant.
Yeah.
So there was a stable population that
Yes.
worked there. Secondly, the PFE, the
Yes.
railroad. The
Yes.
railroad provided jobs for our grandparents and parents during the 30s and 40s and
Yes.
50s. And then we had the citrus industry
Mhm.
provided lots of jobs for
Mhm.
our people too, because we had two crops. We had the Valencia crop and we had the navel crop.
Mhm.
When we were through with the Valencia crop, then the navel crop kicked in. And that was the agriculture, of course. So that gave us a stable community to help not only your grandfather's grocery store thrive,
Mhm.
but also the other stores that we mentioned.
Mhm.
So it was a very, very stable community.
Oh yeah.
And then you mentioned your dad worked at the PFE also.
No, it was my uncle,
Your
my uncle Tony.
Tony?
And he used to have a bicycle, so I mean, it was like about a mile and a half or so.
Uh-huh.
And I remember him, all these cars exiting, and him on his bicycle coming back. I don't know how long he worked, but in later life, after he got married, he was and I think this was the state government. He used to work out of Camp Pendleton, and he used to paint the barracks.
Okay.
And he lived in San Bernardino, and he would meet somebody in the city of Paris, and then carpool in to Camp Pendleton.
Ooh, that's a long drive.
He did that for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that your grandfather retired in 54, 55,
Yes.
56.
Yes.
Did he sell the store, or did one of your uncles take it over, or anybody in the family take it over?
He kept the property.
Okay.
And I remember, and I mean, I was always kind of running in and out of the store, and I remember the day, the moment that one of my friends said, "Gee, your grandfather's store isn't that doesn't have as big a stock on the shelves as they used to."
Uh-huh.
Well, I hadn't noticed that.
Uh-huh.
That's when the store was kind of slowing down as far as business. And then I began to notice, suddenly instead of 20 cans of stewed tomatoes, now we're going to have maybe 10,
Uh-huh.
And it was a real, I wish he hadn't said that,
Uh-huh.
I wish the reality hadn't recognized that, the store wasn't as busy as it used to be. And, things that you remember in
Uh-huh,
life.
uh-huh.
So,
What led to that, Charlie? I mean, was
I-
it people being able to shop in North Colton, or was it people had transportation that they could go other places, or was it store ownership that
You know
your
what?
grandfather was not there anymore?
yeah. I think it was just kind of the changing of kind of the north side. It kind of opened up a little more for everybody. And I think instead of you always, having to work at the cement plant or a job that was kind of menial, let's say, people started to kind of expand. And it wasn't just my grandfather's store, it's kind of the other stores also.
Okay.
It saw a decline, and of course
Mhm.
Stater Brothers was, gangbusters, and I think it was kind of a change of the demographic. It was gonna happen one way, or another. He could have been there, my grandfather, every day, but things were just
It became a
changing
different
society.
Colton. It became a different Colton.
It became a different Colton,
Yeah.
and it's still, he owned, we owned the property up until about maybe 8 years or so ago, and after he retired, it was given. Somebody else leased it, and then he had it for a few years, and then somebody else leased it again, and then finally it got leased out to another family, the Valadez family, around 1957 or so, 58.
And you said you sold the property about 8 years
Sold
ago?
the property about, Cindy, about 8 years ago, or
10 years ago.
maybe about 10 years or so
Mhm.
ago. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, it's kind of bittersweet,
Mhm.
just to sell the property,
Yeah.
and you've been in the family for such a long time. And I still drive by there. I was there just a couple of weeks or so ago. My dentist was in Colton still. And so I said, well, I think I'll stop by the store. That's by the store. And just around the neighborhood, just to see, how things have changed or remained the same.
Tell me about the most impressionable, wonderful moment that you had while you were there in the corner of La Cadena and M Street.
Oh my gosh. I think I'd have to say it was December. Like I said, it was festive. There was Christmas trees out in front of the store, and there was a new life, as in many communities, a new life that occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was always kind of upbeat usually when they came into the store. But it was such a pleasant time of the year anyway, for most people. but I can still see those Christmas trees kind of out there. And then, of course, the fiestas that we used to have, 16th of September.
Uh-huh.
So that was also a lot of fun right there. Just kind of the excitement and my father getting ready for this and that, and so those would be two of the highlights.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, Charlie, your dad, Carlos, and your mom, Mary,
Yeah.
they had how many children?
There were three of us.
Mary
I'm
was
the oldest.
Irene is the first.
No, I'm the first.
You're the oldest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I kid that she's the first, but I'm the first.
Okay. It's you, Irene, and
and Mary.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and we were all raised in South Colton. Irene lives in Highland, and Mary lives in Redlands. And I live in Redlands.
So they're close by.
Yes.
And you live in Redlands also.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you mentioned that you graduated from Cal Poly Pomona.
Cal Poly Pomona, yes.
And after you graduated from Cal Poly Pomona, you worked for the County of San Bernardino.
Right.
Tell me what you did at the County of San Bernardino.
I started in 1974, and I started working for the probation department, juvenile hall.
In juvenile hall, who did you meet in juvenile hall?
Well, I met a lot of people. I met my wife.
You met your wife at juvenile hall?
Yeah.
Was she doing time there?
Yeah, she was. Yeah. Yeah, she burned the potatoes, so they gave her 3 months. No,
So how long did you work for the county?
I worked 30 years. I worked juvenile hall for about 5 years, and I met my wife about the second year. She was a part-timer, and so from there I went to the public health department, working with adolescents again, and I was there from 79, public health department, 79 to 87, and then from 87 to about 94, I went with Children's Services. I was a child abuse investigator for about 5 years. And then the last 10 years of my career with the county, I used to train and recruit foster and adoptive parents and set up big events. Cal State, I used to organize and plan a picnic, appreciation picnic for foster parents, 500 foster parents and kids out here on campus on a Sunday. And simultaneous to working for the county, I started the school that had thrown me on the side here for academic reasons. I came back as an instructor, adjunct instructor.
So you showed them?
I showed them, yeah. So I had a little respect for Valley, and if you can kind of disqualify me academically, I'll come back and be an instructor. So I came from the low end to the high end here as far as being an instructor there.
Yeah.
And so I've been adjunct instructor at Valley for about 15 years.
When did you retire?
I retired in 05,
Uh-huh.
and I still teach at the
community
Valley,
college.
and I also train foster and adoptive parents. They need so many hours to maintain their license, so that it's independent of the county. There's a different division at Valley College, so I train about maybe 10 trainings.
So you're still pretty busy then?
Still
pretty
busy.
busy,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, Charlie, we're kind of coming to our end of our
Sure.
interview. We spent almost an hour together. Is there anything that I didn't cover that you would like to add to our conversation? I see that you have some pictures.
Yeah, just kind of some loose ends.
Okay.
For the record, in 1949, we had a snowstorm that hit South Colton.
Okay.
And that's me in this little photograph just to save, and A Street is kind of right behind me. We can look at that later.
Uh-huh.
And then things that people kind of don't know about me, because I was always in the store running around, and I was always kind of quiet, but a lot of energy. I was, from about age 3 to 4, maybe even 5, I was a ring boy in about 4 or 5 weddings. And here I am with a military wedding, and they outfitted me in an Air Force uniform, as you can see it. And to connect with this,
Now, you were a ring boy.
I was a ring boy, yeah.
For how many weddings?
For about four or five, yeah.
Is it because they tried to butter up your grandfather?
Yeah, but, yeah, buy more groceries. And so I mean, I could just, stand there, don't say anything, okay. So, so I was good at that. And then some years back, I think about 15 years or so ago, it took 3 phone calls to get in touch with me that one of the weddings I'd been in, I think it was this one when I was in a military uniform, they were having a 50th wedding anniversary. And they wanted to know if I would attend, and it was going to be in Colton at the Colton VFW Hall. So I said, sure, I'll be there. After 50 years, you found me, wow.
Were you a ring boy?
I was a ring boy at their wedding. So they had a professional photographer, and they took a photo of the people that still survived. And as you can see, I'm the tallest one there. And as we were lining up for this photo, I said, last time, wasn't I the short one? Because I was about 4 or 5 years old. But that certainly is something that I think very few people know about me, being a ring boy.
You have a couple of other pictures there.
Here's a photo of my mother, and kind of her registration card.
Uh-huh.
She was born in Mexico. And then here's my my
Your
grandmother.
mother's name was Mary, right?
With Mary, yeah, and that's my grandmother, my father's mother, and of course my picture of Uncle Ralph, and and then real short. So I'm in the Navy, and I've gone to Aquinas in San Bernardino. There was a family in South Colton by the name of De La Rosa. Probably a lot of families, and I'm on the Navy ship with 4,000 people.
David.
I think there's a David, yeah.
David.
And I'm on the ship with 4,000 guys. And my division, there's a lot of divisions, my division has about 100 guys. So 4,000 on the ship. My work crew is about 100. Who reports on the ship but a guy from Colton, Sal de la Rosa. And I never knew him because I was going to this school and he was going to this high school. And here we met, and here's a photo of us on the ship. And that's Saul right there. And we have become obviously kind of best of friends. We went overseas together one year. He got out about a year or so before I did. But of all the surprises in life, 2 guys from South Colton, a ship with 4,000 guys, a division with 100 guys, and he ends up doing the same job I should.
And he's about 2 or 3 blocks away from your store.
Yes.
His family is 2 or 3 blocks west of your store.
Yeah, west, yeah. So it was just amazing. Just amazing what life sometimes throws out at you.
Yeah. Like people say, it's a small world.
Yeah,
It's
it
small
certainly
world.
is. Yeah,
Well, Charlie, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
it has been such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Truly appreciate it. Not only your time, but also the information that you provided, not only about your family, but in particular about your grandfather.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.